Welcome to Truthful Manipulation. In a world where truth is bent, facts are framed, and influence is too often used without conscience, this podcast stands for something different. I'm Dave Kelsey, along with H. Daniel Mujahid, and together we expose manipulation, defend integrity, and help you see clearly in a world determined to confuse you. Welcome back to Truthful Manipulation Podcast, where we expose the games, decode the behavior, and occasionally ask the very important question, who gave that person the spotlight? And why are they standing on my coffee table?
Because some people, they don't just enter the room, Dave. They make an entrance.
Exactly. The door opens, the music starts, the imaginary wind machine turns on.
There is no wind.
Not physically, but emotionally, there is a wind machine. And somehow it's always blowing directly through their hair.
Even if they're bald?
Especially if they're bald. That's confidence. Today's episode is about people who believe they're the star of life and everybody else is just there to hand them lines, validate their feelings, carry their emotional luggage, and pretend their bad decisions are plot twists.
Title of this episode, The Star of the Show Nobody Bought Tickets For.
That's cold.
No, Dave. Cold is when somebody ruins Thanksgiving dinner and then wants sympathy because nobody appreciated their honesty.
That's not honesty. That's emotional arson with cranberry sauce.
And stuffing. They always weaponize the stuffing.
You can tell when somebody has main character syndrome because they don't just tell a story. They narrate their suffering like Morgan Freeman is hiding in the pantry.
I was betrayed by everyone I love. Sir, they asked you to take your shoes off in the house.
Exactly. And that's where we begin. Let's define it. Main character syndrome is when a person sees themselves as the central figure in every story, every room, every crisis, every conversation, every apology, every victory, and somehow even every funeral.
Even if they didn't know the deceased?
Especially then.
They'll stand by the casket like, this reminds me of something I went through back in 1988.
And everyone else is thinking, we're literally here burying Harold.
Harold can't even get top billing at his own funeral.
And that's the problem. These people don't want relationships. They want a cast. They don't want a conversation. They want applause. And they don't want accountability. They want lighting, makeup, and somebody holding cue cards that say, you're right, they're wrong, you look amazing.
And don't forget the fog machine.
Always the fog machine.
I want to know who is funding the fog machine. Because every family has one person who walks into a room like they have a production budget.
And they never pay for it.
Nope. They emotionally invoice everybody else.
That's actually the phrase. They emotionally invoice everybody else. Their mood becomes your bill. Their insecurity becomes your assignment. Their ego becomes your group project.
And I hated group projects in school, probably because one person does the work, one person disappears, and one person shows up at the end acting as though they invented the glue.
That's main character syndrome. They show up late, contribute confusion, and take credit for the sunrise.
Well, I've always believed in the daylight.
Sir, the sun was doing fine before your press release. Now, to be fair, confidence is not the problem. Self-worth is not the problem. Having a voice is not the problem. The problem begins when a person stops saying, I matter, and starts acting like only I matter.
Healthy confidence says, I have value. Toxic ego says, everybody else is furniture.
That's right. And some people don't treat you like a person. They treat you like a lamp, used when they need light, ignored when they don't, blamed when they trip over the cord.
And then they tell everybody the lamp attacked.
That's the manipulation. Here's where this connects to truthful manipulation. Manipulation is not always loud. Sometimes it wears charm. Sometimes it wears confidence. Sometimes it wears a nice outfit and says, I just have high standards.
No, you have high maintenance. That's a different department.
Yeah, main character people manipulate reality by making everything orbit around them. If they're upset, everybody has to stop. If they're offended, everybody has to apologize. If they're wrong, everybody has to pretend the evidence is rude.
The facts become disrespectful.
That's right. The truth walks in and they treat it like an uninvited guest.
Well, who invited accountability?
Nobody. Accountability let itself in. It has a key.
And it wears work boots.
Because accountability tracks mud across the ego carpet. Here's the manipulation pattern. First, they make themselves the center. Then they make their feelings the law. Then they make their disagreement a crime. And then they make their boundaries an attack.
And somehow they are always the victim, even when they are holding the matches.
That's the cranberry sauce arson again.
I'm telling you, Dave, somebody needs to regulate holiday condiments.
Now listen, these people often have a script, and if you listen closely, it usually goes something like this. Nobody understands me. Everybody is jealous of me. I'm always the one giving. People take advantage of my kindness. I'm just being honest. That's just how I am.
That's just how I am is the national anthem of people refusing to grow up.
Yeah, that's a punchline.
Play it at every toxic barbecue.
And here's the truth. When somebody says that's just how I am, what they often mean is, I have no intention of becoming healthier, so please adjust your peace around my dysfunction.
That sentence needs to be printed on napkins.
Family reunion napkins.
And divorce court napkins.
With a coupon for therapy.
But one breakthrough, get one boundary free.
That's our first sponsor someday.
Therapy coupons?
Absolutely. Available near the emotional exit signs. In families, main character syndrome is easy to spot. It's the person who makes every event about them.
They don't attend Christmas. They headline.
They don't come to the birthday party. They arrive at the birthday party and somehow become the emotional birthday cake.
With candles nobody asked for.
And if the attention is not on them, they create a situation.
Situation that is a family code for here comes nonsense wearing good shoes.
They arrive late. They complain about the food. They criticize the seating. They say something insulting and call it a joke. And then when someone gets offended, they say, wow, everybody is so sensitive.
Nope. Everybody is not sensitive. You are just emotionally dressed like a porcupine.
And the family adapts. That's the sad part. Everybody starts tiptoeing. Don't say that around them. Don't bring that up. Don't challenge them. Don't correct them. Don't ask why they brought a karaoke machine to a baptism.
I need some details.
No, you don't.
Dave, you can't just say karaoke machines at a baptism and walk away.
All I'm saying is when the child is being blessed and somebody grabs the microphone to sing My Way, you know the spotlight has been hijacked.
At a baptism?
At a baptism.
That baby came in needing grace and left needing security.
That's right. But this is the point. The family becomes trained. Everybody manages the main character. Everybody anticipates the storm. Everybody adjusts the emotional thermostat because one person refuses to wear a sweater.
That's a deep line there. Say that again, man.
everybody adjusts the emotional thermostat because one person refuses to wear a sweater.
And somehow the sweater itself is disrespectful.
Everything is disrespectful when ego is the religion.
And the worst part is, if you finally call them out, they flip the whole script. Suddenly you are the villain.
Because in their movie, they're never the problem. They're the misunderstood hero.
Even when they backed over the mailbox
Twice?
and blamed the mailbox for having an attitude?
Here's another thing. Main character people often hold emotional press conferences.
Indeed, every minor inconvenience becomes breaking news.
They don't just say, I had a rough day. They say, I need everybody to understand what happened to me.
And then they call 3 people, text 6 people, post a vague quote, update their status quo. Some people will never understand your heart.
And what happened?
Somebody used the last ranch dressing.
That's tragedy.
That is not tragedy. That's a condiment shortage.
But to the main character, everything becomes symbolic. You did not forget to call them. You abandoned them. You did not disagree with them. You betrayed them. You didn't ask them to lower their voice. You silenced their truth.
No, we asked you not to yell at a toaster.
The toaster had it coming.
The toaster was doing its best.
And here's the manipulative move. They turn normal correction into emotional persecution. So now you're not allowed to say, hey, that hurt me, because they respond with, I can't believe you think I'm a terrible person.
Nobody said you were terrible. We said stop eating other people's leftovers.
But they escalate. They go from 0 to Greek tragedy in 4 seconds.
My own family has turned against me.
You ate Steve's lasagna.
And labeled the empty container growth.
Now the family has a decision. Do we confront the pattern, or do we just keep letting one person turn every gathering into dinner theater?
And not even good dinner theater. Like community theater with emotional smoke.
Here's the serious part. When families allow one ego to dominate every room, they teach the next generation that love means self-erasure. And that's dangerous because love should never require silence. Peace should not require pretending. Family should not mean surrounding your dignity so one person can keep playing lead actor in a movie nobody agreed to be in.
Well, that's the line there. Nobody signed the release form.
That's right. And if you were in your movie, where are the checks?
I want residuals.
And snacks.
Good snack. Not those little pretzels that last like salted cardboard. This episode of the Truthful Manipulation Podcast is brought to you by the book, Truthful Manipulation, a roadmap to live by. Now let me explain something. If you are tired of people walking into your life with a fake smile, a hidden agenda, and enough emotional drama to qualify for a city permit, this book is for you. Because manipulation is everywhere. In business, in politics, in families, in religion, at work, at dinner, at meetings that should have been emails. This book helps you recognize the game before you become the ball. It teaches you how influence works, how people twist the truth, how power hides behind language, and how to stand in integrity when the world keeps trying to hand you a costume. So go to www.truthfulmanipulation.com. Get the book, read it, underline it, understand it, use it. And the next time somebody tries to make you a supporting actor in their emotional circus, you can say, no, thank you. I have read the script, and this movie is terrible. And now, back to the show.
And we're back. We're talking about main character syndrome. People who think life is their personal movie and the rest of us are unpaid extras wearing uncomfortable shoes.
Let's go to business, because business is full of people who say teamwork while meaning worship me quietly.
That's the difference between a leader and an ego with a company email.
Some bosses do not build companies. They build mirrors.
That's good. They build mirrors. Everybody around them is expected to reflect back greatness. The meeting starts with numbers, but somehow ends up with a story about how they overcame adversity in 1987.
And the adversity was probably a slow fax machine.
Those were hard times.
Not every inconvenience is a hero's journey.
In business, main character syndrome shows up when a leader believes the organization exists to protect their image instead of fulfill its purpose. When something goes right, they take credit. When something goes wrong, they investigate which employee failed to appreciate their vision.
Vision? They changed the logo color and called it strategy.
And scheduled a retreat.
Oh, the retreat. Nothing says productivity like 12 adults in a conference room doing trust falls with people they do not trust.
But seriously, in business, this ego pattern damages everything. It damages morale. It damages honesty. It damages creativity because people stop telling the truth. They start managing the boss.
Managing the boss is not a job description. It's a hostage situation with dental benefit.
When employees are afraid to tell the truth because the leaders can't handle reality, the company becomes a theater production. Everybody performs. Nobody improves. The numbers are softened. The bad news is delayed. The problems are renamed.
Hear ye, hear you. We don't have a customer service crisis. We have a client enthusiasm recalibration opportunity. Corporate languages is where truth goes to wear khaki.
Main character leadership says, protect me from the truth. Real leadership says, bring me the truth so we can fix it. That's the dividing line.
And if a leader cannot survive feedback, they are not a leader. They are a fragile statue with an assistant.
Let's talk about meetings, because main character syndrome loves meetings.
Loves it. A meeting gives ego a table. A table gives ego a head of the table. The head of the table gives ego a plate to point at people.
And there's always one person who talks for 20 minutes and says nothing.
Nothing. Just words in a soup.
They say things like, we need to be proactive moving forward with intentional alignment around our core deliverables.
Translation. I have no idea what is happening, but I own a blazer.
The main character in this business does not listen to understand. They listen for their next entrance.
Indeed, they do. You'll be explaining a real problem, and you can see them waiting for their clue. Their eyes glaze over like a donut.
And then they jump in. That reminds me of when
There it is, the national anthem.
That reminds me when Every topic is a trampoline back to themselves. You say customer complaints, and they say leadership journey. You say payroll issue, and they say personal sacrifice. You say the roof is leaking, and they say nobody appreciates how hard it is to own umbrellas.
Dave, that sounds like someone we both know.
We're not naming names.
Good, because we would need a longer show.
That's what happens when ego runs the meeting. The meeting stops being about solutions. It becomes about reassurance. And everyone has to reassure the main character that they are smart, appreciated, visionary, misunderstood, and still attractive under fluorescent lighting.
Nobody's attractive under fluorescent lighting.
Not true. A gas station hot dogs glow beautifully.
Yeah, but that's not beauty. That's a warning label.
And that's leadership under ego. It glows, but it should worry you. Because if the company's truth has to be filtered through one person's emotional comfort, the company is not being led, it's being babysat.
And the baby has a parking spot
Reserved.
close to the door.
With a sign that says founder.
And underneath, in smaller letters, please do not expose to feedback.
Now let's talk about friendship. Because main character syndrome destroys friendships quickly.
That's the friend who only calls when their life is on fire.
And somehow their job is to show up with a hose, a blanket, snacks, legal advice, emotional support, and maybe a forklift.
But when you need them,
they're going through a lot.
They have been going through a lot since the Clinton administration.
And main character friends don't ask, how are you? They ask, are you available to hear what happened to me?
And if you say no, they say, wow, I guess I know who my real friends are.
That sentence is emotional shoplifting.
Explain shoplifting.
They're trying to steal your boundary and replace it with guilt.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Because a healthy friendship respects capacity. It says, do you have space for this? A manipulative friendship assumes your space belongs to them.
They treat your piece like an Airbnb. Show up anytime. Leave a mess. Complain about the towels.
And give you 3 stars because you had boundaries.
Host was emotionally unavailable after 11 p.m.
Main character friends also rewrite history. If you helped them 10 times and said no once, they remember the no.
Because the no interrupted the movie.
That's right. A boundary feels like bad lighting to a narcissist ego.
That's why they hate it. Boundaries reveal the set.
Yes, boundaries say, this is not a kingdom. I'm not staff. My time is not your property. My attention is not a subscription service.
And you cannot auto-renew me.
That's why healthy people must learn to say, I love you, I care about you, but I will not orbit you.
That's a hard sentence.
It is, but it's necessary because compassion without boundaries becomes emotional employment.
And again here, where are the benefits?
None. No dental, no retirement, just long text and high blood pressure.
Attention! Let me ask you something. Do you work with people who use charm like a fishing net? Do you sit in meetings where everybody knows the truth, but nobody says it because the person in charge has the emotional stability of a folding chair? Do you have a team, a church group, masjid group, temple group, a business, a school, organization, or family that could use a little more integrity and a lot less theater? Then you need the Truthful Manipulation seminars and workshops. These workshops help people understand manipulation, power, ethics, communication, influence, and accountability. Not in a boring way, not in a here are 47 slides and a stale muffin way, but in a real way, a practical way, a human way, a way that says, let's stop pretending dysfunction is personality. If your organization is ready to build a culture of truth, integrity, ethics, and moral courage, go to www.truthfulmanipulation.com. Bring us in. We'll bring the tools. You bring the people. And if somebody in the back says, I don't think I manipulate anybody, we will quietly pass them a mirror. And now back to the show.
And we're back. Let's talk social media. Because if main character syndrome had a gym membership, it would work out on social media.
Social media did not create ego. It gave ego a ring light.
Now look, social media can be useful. It can connect people. It can promote good ideas. It can build community, but it can also turn everybody's life into a never-ending audition.
People don't eat breakfast anymore. They document the emotional journey of toast.
This avocado represents resilience.
No, it represents $4.99 and poor timing.
Main character syndrome on social media says every outfit needs a reveal. Every feeling needs a caption. Every minor inconvenience needs a black and white photo with a quote from someone they never read.
Some storms come to clear your path.
What happened?
They got a parking ticket.
The storm was municipal enforcement.
And a tow truck named Destiny.
Now here's the serious part. Social media trains us to perform identity. People start asking, how does this look instead of, is this true? They ask, will this get attention instead of, does this build character? And they ask, can I make this about me instead of, how can I serve?
And some people can make anything about them. A wedding, a funeral, a weather report, a coupon.
A coupon?
Yeah. I just think it's interesting that the universe gave me 20% off today after everything I've been through.
The universe didn't give you that. CVS gave you a receipt long enough to carpet a hallway. And the danger is that people start confusing visibility with value. Being seen is not the same as being grounded. Being followed is not the same as being wise. And being lifted is not the same as being loved. And if you're not careful, we start living for the camera instead of the conscience.
That's the truthful manipulation lesson. The spotlight can become a cage.
That's right. The cage has excellent lighting. Now let's talk about politics and power. Because when main character syndrome gets power, it stops being annoying and starts being dangerous.
Very dangerous. Because now the person does not just think the room revolves around them, they think the country does.
That's right. A main character in politics doesn't ask what's true, what's just, what helps people, what protects democracy. They ask, how does that make me look? Who praised me? Who criticized me? Who must be punished for noticing reality?
That last one is where democracy starts sweating.
Because the truth becomes a threat to ego. Facts become enemies. Journalists become villains. Expert become obstacles. And citizens become props.
And loyalty becomes more important than competence.
And that's the heart of it. Main character power demands loyalty to the person instead of loyalty to principle.
Which is how you end up with people defending nonsense in public, then whispering the truth in private.
Yes, that's one of the greatest signs of manipulated culture. Public loyalty, private honesty. When people can only tell the truth off the record, ego is running the record.
You can say that again, champ.
When people can only tell the truth off the record, ego is running the record.
That needs to be a poster.
With a fog machine.
No more fog machine.
Just one.
No.
Fine. A tasteful mist.
Yeah, but that's how it starts.
In politics, the main character leader says, I alone matter. I alone understand. I alone can fix it. I alone deserve loyalty. I alone define truth.
Yeah, and that's not leadership. That's an ego trying on a crown.
A healthy leader understands they are a steward. An unhealthy leader thinks they are the story. A healthy leader serves the people. An unhealthy leader uses the people as background music.
And the background music is always too loud.
because ego has bad sound mixing. Now, the big question is this: why do people play along? Why do people become supporting actors in someone else's ego production?
Because peace is cheaper in the moment.
Yes, peace is cheaper in the moment. People think, let me just agree. Let me just stay quiet. Let me just laugh at the joke. Let me just compliment them. Let me keep the room calm.
And that is how tyrants are born at the dessert table.
And that's how dysfunction becomes tradition. Everybody keeps choosing short-term peace over long-term truth.
Because telling the truth means dealing with the explosion.
And some people are professional explosions.
They don't get mad. They produce a miniseries. Episode 1, Betrayal. Episode 2, Nobody Understands Me. Episode 3, I Guess I'm the Bad Guy. Season finale, vague Facebook post.
With comments from people who have no idea what happened.
Stay strong, beautiful soul.
What happened?
They were asked to return a borrowed ladder.
The ladder was innocent.
The ladder always is.
People always fall for it because main character personalities can be charming, very charming. They know how to make you feel important. They know how to pull you into the inner circle, and they know how to say, you're the only one who understands me.
Now that sentence there has bait on it.
That's right, because at first it feels like truth, but later it becomes a job. Now you're responsible for understanding them, defending them, excusing them, translating them, and absorbing the emotional smoke.
You become their unpaid public relations department.
Yes, start explaining them to the other people. They didn't mean it that way. They're just under stress. They have a big heart. That's just their personality.
No, that is not a personality. That's a pattern with shoes.
And once you see the pattern, you have the responsibility to stop calling it confusion. One of the most manipulative parts of main character syndrome is how quickly the roles get assigned. They're always the hero or the victim. You're either the loyal sidekick or the villain. There is no middle ground.
No room for, I care about you, but you are wrong.
That's right, the sentence breaks their script.
Because in their movie, love means agreement.
And disagreement means betrayal.
Which is very childish.
It is childish. Healthy adults can be challenged. Healthy adults can be corrected. Healthy adults can hear, that hurt me, without immediately hiring a defense attorney made of feelings.
I object, Your Honor, on the grounds that I do not like consequences.
Overruled.
I would like to appeal to my childhood.
Sustained for context, denied as an excuse.
That's good. Sustained for context, denied as an excuse.
Because yes, people have wounds. Yes, people have histories. Yes, people have pain. But pain doesn't give anyone a lifetime license to mistreat others. Pain explains behavior. It does not automatically excuse it.
Certainly does not.
And when a main character person is challenged, they often do one of three things. Number one, they deny. Number two, they deflect. Number three, they dramatize.
The 3 Ds, eh? Deny, deflect, dramatize. I might even add they double down.
Exactly. You say, you hurt my feelings. They deny, that never happened. They deflect, well, you did something to me. They dramatize, I guess I'm just the worst person alive.
Double down, double down. And now you are comforting them about the thing they did not do to you.
And that's the manipulation. They flip the emotional invoice.
They hit your car and made you drive them to the hospital.
That's why you need clarity, because once you are confronting someone for hurting you, the script has been hijacked. You're listening to the Truthful Manipulation Podcast, where we take the games people play and put them under the bright lights.
Oh, no, not the eagle lights.
No, the truth lights.
Much less flattering.
But much more useful.
I heard that. If you like conversations about ethics, integrity, manipulation, truth, power, family, business, leadership, politics, and why some people should not be allowed near a microphone after dessert,
or before dessert,
then go to truthfulmanipulation.com.
Listen to the podcast, read the articles, check out the book, share the message, and help us build a culture where truth is not treated like an inconvenience.
Because manipulation survives in silence.
But truth grows when people are brave enough to name what's happening.
And funny enough to survive naming it.
That's right, truthful manipulation.
Where the truth comes with a flashlight.
And occasionally a fog machine.
No, not the fog machine.
Fine, a little mist. And now back to the conclusion of this week's episode. And we're back. Daniel has stepped away for a minute, which means I get to finish the show by myself. That's either a sign of trust or a terrible programming decision. Either way, here we are. So let's talk about the big question. What do you do when someone in your life believes they're the star, the director, the producer, the lighting crew, the soundtrack, and somehow also the victim in every scene? First thing, stop auditioning. That's right. Stop auditioning for their approval. Stop auditioning for their calm. Stop auditioning for their respect. And stop auditioning for a role in a movie you never agreed to be in. Because some people don't want a relationship. They want a casting control. They want to decide who you are, what you meant, how you feel, when you should apologize, and how loudly you should clap when they walk into Costco like they just returned from war. Sir, you bought toilet paper. Relax. The first step in dealing with main character personality is this. Stop rewarding the performance. Drama needs an audience. Ego needs oxygen. Manipulation needs participation. And some people keep performing because everyone around them keeps reacting. They raise their voice and everybody adjusts. They pout and everybody checks on them. They get offended and everybody apologizes. They create chaos and everybody grabs a mop. At some point you have to ask, am I helping this person heal or am I helping this person avoid responsibility? That's a hard question, but it's necessary. Because compassion without boundaries becomes emotional employment. And let's be very clear, I'm not going to be emotionally employed by someone else's drama. I need benefits, dental, vision, retirement, and a sandwich tray. Not one of those dry sandwich trays where the bread has the texture of an old church bulletin. Now, here are a few practical ways to deal with the main character personality. Number 1. Name the pattern without attacking the person. You don't have to say, you're a narcissistic fog machine with shoes, even if that sentence feels spiritually accurate. You can say, when every conversation turns back to you, I feel like there's no room for anyone else. Or, when I bring up how something affected me, the conversation becomes how hard that is for you to hear. We lose the chance to repair what actually happened. That's grown-up language, and grown-up language is important. Some people are allergic to it. They break out in excuses, but you still need to use it because clarity gives the relationship a chance. Confusion gives manipulation a hiding place. The second thing you need is boundaries. Now, boundaries are not punishment. They're not attacks. They're not betrayals. They're not emotional hate crimes. A boundary is simply a fence around dignity. And some people act shocked when they discover you have one. They say, wow, you've changed. Yes, it's called growth. You should try it. They say, you used to be more understanding. No, I used to be easier to manipulate, different department. They say, I guess I can't say anything anymore. No, you can say things. You just can't say them without consequences. That's not oppression. That's adulthood. And here's a healthy boundary. I care about you, but I will not continue this conversation if it turns disrespectful. And here's another one. I'm willing to listen, but I'm not willing to be blamed for the feelings I did not create. And here's one of my favorites. I love you, but I'm not joining season 4 of this drama. Now, when you set a boundary with someone who thinks they are the main character, expect resistance, because you're no longer playing their assigned role. You're supposed to be the listener, the fixer, the calmer, the defender, the excuse maker, the unpaid emotional janitor with a mop and a nervous smile. But now you're saying, no, thank you. I've retired from janitorial services. And they may not like that. They may call you selfish. They may call you cold. They may say you abandoned them, and they may act like your boundaries came through the window wearing a ski mask. But here's the truth. A person who benefits from your lack of boundaries will often be offended when you develop them. Say that again in your own head. A person who benefits from your lack of boundaries will often be offended when you develop them. That doesn't mean your boundary is wrong. It means your boundary is working. But here's the key. Don't become bitter. That's important. The goal's not to become cruel. The goal's to become clear. There's a difference. Cruelty says, I want to hurt you. Clarity says, I will not disappear so you can feel comfortable. Cruelty attacks the person. Clarity addresses the pattern. Cruelty addresses more damage. Clarity creates the possibility of repair. And if repair is not possible, clarity still protects your peace. Now, this next part's important. Don't confront someone out of accountability, because main character personalities have a special move. You bring up something they did, and they turn it into something they feel. You say, that hurt me. They say, I can't believe you think I'm a terrible person. Now look what happened. You started with your pain, and suddenly you're managing their identity crisis. That's not a conversation. That's a hostage exchange. You were trying to talk about the behavior. They moved the conversation to their self-image. You were trying to repair the damage, and they made you reassure the person who caused it. That's how the script gets hijacked. So when that happens, stay calm. Say, I'm not saying you're a terrible person. I'm saying this behavior hurts me. And if they say, well, I guess I can't do anything right, you say, that's not what I said. And if they say, so now I'm the villain, you say, no, you're responsible for your behavior. And that's the difference. Accountability is not villainizing somebody. Accountability is refusing to pretend the mess cleaned itself up. If someone knocks over a lamp, accountability says, pick up the lamp. Main character syndrome says, I can't believe you care more about the lamp than my feelings. The lamp's in pieces, Brenda. Can we discuss your feelings after we find the lampshade? This happens in families. It happens in business. It happens in friendships. It happens in politics. And it happens anywhere people want the benefits of leadership, love, attention, or influence without the burden of responsibility. But here's the truthful manipulation principle. Pain may explain behavior, but it doesn't automatically excuse behavior. That sentence matters. People have wounds. People have histories. People have trauma. People have hard chapters. We should have compassion for that, but compassion doesn't mean surrendering the truth. And compassion doesn't mean accepting mistreatment. And compassion doesn't mean letting someone turn their pain into your prison. You can care about why someone became difficult without volunteering to be the furniture they throw around the room. Because let's be honest, some people don't need a supporting cast. They need a mirror and maybe a chair and maybe a licensed professional and maybe someone brave enough to say, I love you, but this production has gone off the rails. Now, before we wrap this up, we have to do the part nobody likes. We have to turn the mirror towards ourselves. I know. It was more fun when we were talking about other people. That's always the fun part. Judging other people is like emotional popcorn. You eat it, hard to stop. But truthful manipulation is not about spotting manipulation in others. It's about noticing where we may be doing it ourselves. So we have to ask, where do I make myself the center? Where do I need too much validation? Where do I confuse being heard with being obeyed? And where do I turn correction into injury? And where do I use charm to avoid accountability? And where do I expect others to manage my mood? Where do I call my ego standards? And where do I call my control love? And where do I call my drama honesty? That's uncomfortable, but that's where growth begins. Because the truth is, all of us have moments where we want the spotlight. All of us want to be understood. We want to be appreciated. All of us want someone to see what we're carrying. That's human. The problem's not wanting to matter. The problem is deciding you matter more than everyone else. Healthy confidence says, I matter. Humility says, so do you. Ego says, I matter, and everyone else can wait in the lobby. And the lobby always has terrible magazines from 2009 and a broken coffee machine that only makes betrayal-flavored decaf. Humility's not humiliation. That's important. Humiliation says, I'm nothing. Humility says, I'm something, but I'm not everything. That sentence could save a lot of marriages, a lot of businesses, a lot of friendships, a lot of churches, a lot of marriages, and a lot of boardrooms, and every comment section on the internet. Humility says, I can be wrong. I can apologize. I can repair. I can listen. I can grow. I can be important without being the entire universe. That's maturity. That's integrity. And that's the difference between being a person with confidence and being an ego with a Bluetooth speaker. So here's where we land. The problem's not that people want to matter. We all want to matter. We all want to be seen. We all want to be heard. We all want to know our life has meaning. That's not selfish. That's human. The problem begins when someone decides, my pain matters more. My story matters more. My opinion matters more. My comfort matters more. My vision matters more. And my ego matters more. And everyone else needs to adjust. That's when confidence becomes ego. Ego becomes entitlement. And entitlement becomes manipulation. And manipulation becomes a lifestyle. Truthful manipulation teaches us to recognize the difference between connection and control. Connection can handle truth. Control cannot. Connection says, tell me how you feel. Control says, tell me what makes me look good. Connection says, let's repair this. Control says, let's discuss why you made me feel bad for doing it. Connection says, we both matter. Control says, I matter, and you need to stop interrupting my movie. And that's why boundaries matter. And that's why truth matters. And that's why humility matters. And that's why accountability matters. Because life's not a one-person show. You're allowed to be the main character in your own growth. That means listening, repairing, changing, owning your part, building character, choosing integrity, telling the truth, but you're not allowed to turn everybody else into furniture, and you're not allowed to make your pain everybody else's prison, and you're not allowed to call every boundary betrayal, and you're not allowed to treat love like worship, and you're not allowed to demand applause for behavior that needs accountability. And you're definitely not allowed to walk into Costco with dramatic music playing in their head unless you're buying bulk humility. Aisle 7, right next to accountability, which unfortunately is usually out of stock. So to the people who spent years managing someone else's mood, protecting someone else's ego, and playing a role in a movie you never auditioned for, you can step out of the scene. You can put down the script. You can stop clapping for dysfunction. You can love people without orbiting them. And you can have compassion without surrendering your dignity. And you can tell the truth without becoming cruel. And you can set boundaries without apologizing for needing peace. This has been Truthful Manipulation Podcast. I'm Dave. And on behalf of Daniel, who had to step away, which means for once, I get the final word, and I intend to use it responsibly, mostly. Remember, the spotlight's not yours forever. The audience is tired, and nobody bought tickets. Visit us at truthfulmanipulation.com. Get the book, listen to the podcast, share the truth, build your integrity, protect your peace, and for the love of all things ethical, stop giving the ego a fog machine. And that's been this week's episode of Truthful Manipulation. If you'd like to comment on this week's show, you can do that at truthfulmanipulation@gmail.com. We're proud to say that we've reached number 7 in Manipulation Podcasts. So pass this on to somebody you think might benefit from hearing it. Pick up a copy of our book, Truthful Manipulation, A Roadmap to Live By. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe at truthfulmanipulation.com. Thank you for listening this week.